Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm talking about probably the easiest way to stop both too much lateral movement and swaying in your hips and at the same time prevent what we call an early extension, a thrusting of your pelvis towards the golf ball in the downswing. A lot of golfers have been struggling keeping centered over a golf ball for generations, and a lot of that, if I think back to my youth, was because we were actually encouraged to do an awful lot of weight transferal in our golf swings and get our knees and our hips actually moving over towards the target in the downswing. If you look back at kind of the history of golf, the sway movement seems to have virtually disappeared from professional golf now. You're really talking far more about a rotational movement, a lot of maybe vertical forces being used, but this actual kind of lateral movement, especially in your upper body and head, has virtually disappeared. And all of the top golf teachers and the people working with biomechanics are trying to kind of get you a little bit more over the ball. So if you can find a way to actually stop your lower body and upper body doing too much swaying or lateral movement in the golf swing, that's definitely going to be beneficial. What I wanted to talk about today is probably what I believe is the main reason for your swaying, and it all basically goes back to the idea of weight transferal. When you're actually making a backswing, you will automatically build more weight and more pressure on your trail side. And this will happen to a certain extent because you're simply swinging the golf club away from the target and the golf club is trying to pull you over. You are also moving more mass, more body parts right of center for a right-handed golfer, or behind the ball if you want to think of it neutrally. And therefore there's going to be a perceivable change in your center of pressure or your weight or center of mass. And that is basically, though, very small amount. We're talking, probably an inch or two, and it won't really do that much. Your feeling, however, will be that your weight will kind of move on to your trail foot. And sometimes, especially if you're trying to get a bit more backswing, you will allow your trail leg to straighten, maybe even your lead heel to come off the ground, and you might actually find yourself on the outside of your trail foot. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be a bad thing, because obviously the more run-up you get to the golf ball, the better. But I'm telling you, if you start your downswing with your weight on your trail foot, or not even worse, on the outside of your trail foot, you're going to sway. And the reason for this is that it's almost impossible to get any leverage with the ground and start any kind of rotational movement before you actually get some leverage in your lead side. And the reason for this is simply that in order to get your hip rotation and your shoulder rotation started, you're going to have to use the ground through your feet. And if you're just standing on one foot, quite simply, you're not going to be able to do this. If you're on the outside of that foot, on top of that, then you're not going to get enough purchase on the ground to get into rotation before you've slid laterally onto and put some weight onto your lead foot. And this is the reason that this trick works so well, and the reason that you will actually see virtually every top golfer doing it. I've talked about it in the past, but I wanted to actually really kind of hammer the nail home today. It's all about getting into your lead side before you finish your backswing. In the perfect world, when your hips and shoulders have stopped rotating and your arms are still moving up and away from the ground, you have got to be at that point moving back into the center and putting pressure on the balls of your lead feet or foot. The reason for this is quite simple. If I have pressure on my lead foot and my trail foot, I can use shear forces or eccentric forces to rotate my hips. I can press away from the target with my lead foot, like I was talking about a few weeks ago when we were talking really about getting a little bit more pressure on the lead foot and using the lead foot to create opposing forces to the direction that you're trying to hit the golf ball, which will help you generate more power. But if you actually look at this, as I get to the top of the swing, I am actually going into the lead foot, allowing the lead knee actually to bend slightly, going with my lead shoulder down towards, at least the feeling towards my lead foot. And then as I really go into this move and let the trail knee bend as well, I am pushing back with the lead foot, which is giving me rotation and obviously stopping any further lateral movement. So basically I am centering my hips before I get into the proper downswing, before I've actually finished the club actually going back. So there will be a slight movement of the hips and pelvis away from the target. Again, we're probably only talking to maybe an inch. And then as I come back into the ball, I'm going to go back an inch or maybe a little bit more into the lead side. And then I'm pressing away from the front foot and towards the target with the trail foot. And this is actually going to give me this kind of rotation and keep me centered. You will see this in a lot of good golfers, this kind of leaning into the target just before you get into it. Now, this is going to cause you all kinds of strange feelings. One of them being that you're going to have to be working far more athletically with your lead side in order to do this, because otherwise you're going to have the feeling you're just going to drive the club into the ground. Don't be scared of this feeling. Go with it, because you really need the muscle power. You need the speed in order to get out of that lead side. Getting over your right shoulder, right foot, and then sliding into your left foot before you turn is really not an option, because obviously it's going to mean that in the time that you are sliding, other golfers are turning. And the time that you stop sliding, your arms are starting to overtake before you get into rotation. And you are losing pressure on the handle and losing control over the golf club. A big swaying movement really isn't going to help your game at all. You've got to try and keep the small kind of pelvic or lateral rotation to a minimum. Get more of this feeling of kind of turning as if you were in a barrel. Even if that's not exactly what you're doing, there will be a little bit of lateral motion or sway in your hips, but it's going to be very, very minimal. And as you come down into the ball, you've got to have already got weight and pressure onto that lead side so that you can use the lead side to resist at the top of the backswing. I don't know how easy that is to see on the video, but I have a definite feeling of the weight going into the balls of my lead foot before I've finished the backswing, before my hands have reached the highest point in the backswing. And that is something that you want to try and practice and get that lead side out of the way despite this extra pressure you're putting on it. As you can see there, I hit that one nice and fat, but it doesn't really matter, because as long as I'm thinking about it, I'm only teaching the body. Once your body actually gets used to doing this, then you can stop thinking about it. You can let your cerebellum or your small brain take over the coordination of the movement. You'll actually find that this becomes intuitive, that you don't actually have a good feeling if you're back here on the trail side at the top of your swing. As ever, if it's helped you, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Thanks again to all of my patrons. If you'd like to become a patron, I shall leave a link below. We'll see you all very shortly with the next one. Until then, bye-bye now.